Welcome to the Daily Dev Talk with me, Adrian Nantchev, where we explore and share experiences, stories, and lessons 7 days a week from across the games industry, helping you make the best game you can. Stay tuned for today's episode. Good morning, Overload Nation. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Dev Talk, talking to game developers from across the world to bring you experiences, stories, and lessons 7 days a week. Today, I'm talking with Paul Barclay from Foundry to talk about their first game, Nova Blitz. Paul, talk about yourself first, please, and how you got into the games industry.
Well, I started off playing games. That's how most people get into the industry. Playing a little game called Magic the Gathering. And from there, ended up getting recruited by Wizards of the Coast to work in their R&D department, and that's kind of how everything snowballed from there. Worked on Magic, worked on a whole lot of other cool games, and then just recently decided to strike out on my own and try something a little different and a little new.
Oh, it's different and it's new, all right. So have you worked on any Magic the Gathering games at all?
I worked on the actual Magic product for 8
Oh, I
years.
see.
Yeah.
Oh, I see that. Oh, wow. Okay. All right, that's different. That is different avenue.
Yeah.
So, what was that design or the art side or how
Started off in
exactly?
design,
Right.
moved into a production role, ended up being the program manager for Magic for a while. Uh,
Uh-huh.
so that was looking at all the digital games, all the card sets, all the marketing, everything together. So it was an incredibly interesting job.
Okay, that's very good to know. Um, give So how long have you been in the industry then exactly, in the
I
games
started at
industry?
started at Wizards in 2001, so 14 years.
Uh-huh. That's quite a while then.
It is. It's a fun place to work.
So oh, fun place. Oh, definitely, yes. So you worked on all these different games and all these different products, and you decided to start your own studio.
Yep, I decided that I wanted to make something that I wanted to make rather than working on much, much bigger games. Um, so I decided to branch out and make a digital game. I've been working on a bunch of the digital initiatives at Wizards for a while. So it was time to step down that path.
Yeah, I agree. It's like the level of independence and freedom and control that you don't necessarily get when you work at bigger studios.
It's also just working at a smaller studio it's more fun. I mean, there's a lot the stresses at big studios, the stress at little studios, the stresses are very very different. But for me, a smaller studio is more fun, more hands on. You can really impact the product that you're working on. You can interact directly with the customers and get their input, get their ideas, and just integrate them into the product.
Wow, definitely. I can agree with that and understand. You got that intimacy with indie.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us about Nova Blitz and what you wanted the player to experience.
So Nova Blitz is a real-time trading card game. What we wanted the players to experience was a really deep strategy game, but one that didn't take an hour to play. So we set a target of a 5-minute gameplay session. So one game, 5 minutes. Um, Most of our games are actually taking between 3 and 4 minutes. So we're finding that games tend to play really quickly. And we've balanced out the speed and the strategy. So you've still got thinking time. You still got enough time to plan out what you're going to do, but you can't wait around. And if you make a mistake, then that's the mistake made, and you've got to come back from that. Um, so yeah, what we've got is it's a card game. So it looks like a card game. It feels like a card game. You're drawing cards. You're playing cards. You're attacking with cards. Um, we went through a whole bunch of iterations on the game.
Mm.
Um, that's the way of making a good game. Is you start with something that's a good idea, and then you play it, and it's almost fun. And then you make some changes and try and figure out if you can make it more fun. And then at some point down those rotation of iterations, you end up with, oh wow, this is a really fun game. And you don't stop iterating at that point. You still keep trying to look for more fun. You just shift the focus a little bit. So our stopping point was we got to a gameplay that we really really liked in the combats, which is we're both playing at the same time in the game, so we both give our combat orders at the same time, but we don't see what each other's putting in. So I might decide to try and block a couple of your units. You might be able to predict that and say, okay, if I'm going to block these, then what you actually want to do is not attack this turn with those, but attack with something else, and trick me into making a mistake.
When I was playing the demo, I loved it. I noticed straight away there was this massive emphasis on speed and getting the turns over done quickly, and the game being generally quite short, which I think is quite cool actually. And that 20-second feature, that mechanic you have, yeah, is long enough to be, a push, and at the same time, plenty of time to think. It's a good balance, I find. What determines the sequence of which unit attacks first and such? Because that's one
So
thing I was not too sure of.
so the player that finishes their turn first, effectively, is the
Ah,
player who attacks first. So you'll
aha.
see a little initiative bar on the side, and that moves between the players as you play
Hmm.
cards. So the player with initiative attacks first, and your
Ah,
units just
okay.
attack in the order that you give them orders.
Well, I liked it. It's very clever, very smart, really cutting edge, but really fast paced, and I like that. One thing I was unsure about at first was that mana bit, the points thing. Where you
Yeah,
can more points you have, more units you can summon per turn.
yeah,
I thought that increased naturally, like one turn of each turn increases by one, but you have to like place land cards equivalent of
yeah,
that increases it.
yeah.
That's really
Yeah,
different
so
as well.
this is actually an area that we're looking at iterating on right now. Is there a way of making that a little simpler? Because if we can make it a little simpler, it lets us open up more space, more thinking space for other cards that you're playing. Um,
Hmm.
when we don't quite have it yet, we've been going around with a few crazy ideas and a few pretty normal ideas. Um, I think we'll come up with something in the next couple of months, and then we'll be able to test it and
Hmm.
put it in. Because what we find is that the real hardcore trading card game players, they totally understand how that works, and it doesn't even bother them. But people coming in from other types of gaming tend to sort of not quite get the flow. Um, so we want to try and make the game as accessible to everybody as possible without taking away the strategy. So that's an area
Hmm.
that we're definitely looking at. Can we improve? Can we adjust? Um, can we make
Oh,
something a little
cool.
more interesting?
Well, back in 2001, when you first got into the industry, I was playing a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Remember that at all?
I do remember Yu-Gi-Oh.
Back in the day, it was completely different. And I played Duel Masters as well. I collected a few of Magic the Gathering, but I couldn't get it. It just didn't get the game, and I needed more land cards as well to build a proper deck.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it was just a nice looking card. The art style is completely different, and it's like it just looks nice. But it was all predominantly Yu-Gi-Oh!
yeah,
And I've played a few other games similar to this, and that's why I was expecting the points would increase one by one per turn.
yeah.
And but this, yeah, I like it a lot, and it matches the name as well. Blitz, speed, fast paced, and it really is a very nicely balanced game. When I first played it, I played as the arcane deck, and unfortunately, I lost by quite a big margin. I lost against the chaos deck. I noticed that their units had like one point requirement. So next level, I played as chaos, and I won by quite a significant margin as well. And I thought, this is a good game. I think if you have the speed and you know generally what to do, it's fine. It's pretty good. The downfall I had was that the resolution isn't quite full screen, so I couldn't quite see what all the abilities did fully. So
Ah,
I was kind of reading the first three quarters of it, or two thirds of it, and thinking, okay, I know what to do. Put that, put this, and see what happens, and let's go.
so we just updated that in the latest upgrade to
Hmm.
the alpha. So now we've got a full screen option in the game, and we've also got a zoom option for the cards in your hand. So
Ah.
you can click and hold, and it'll zoom in the card. So you've got a much better, it's much easier to read. I mean, they're actually bigger than they need to be because we want to show off the art.
Oh wow, that's a good point. Yeah, so you zoom in so you can see the art. That's a
Yeah,
cool. That's like two birds, one stone. That's a cool
exactly.
concept. Interesting idea. So tell me, how did you go about promoting the game? What worked well, and what didn't work so well?
We started off with reaching out to local gamers and going a little further afield. We put out a very early demo in January, and just talked about that, shared it with people, and we got a couple of thousand people downloaded it, and some of them will have tried it out. Not everybody tries out everything they download, of course.
Hmm.
We went to PAX South, which is a big gaming convention in San Antonio, Texas, in January, and showed the game to a lot of people. Got some great feedback. Got some excited people, um, and then we just kept on talking about it and showing things. And then just recently, we went on Steam Greenlight. We got greenlit in 10 days. We released the full alpha with the deck building and um, 200 cards. So that's the version you had there, um, and talked about that a lot. And we've had over 1,000 people play that already. Uh,
Hmm.
and then we are now on Kickstarter. So we just as of the recording of this interview, we just broke the halfway point after 3 days on Kickstarter.
Oh,
So
very good.
yeah, so we're in great shape on Kickstarter. Kickstarter's helping out. We've got some PR. We got some good news articles going on about the game. We've got a lot of push on the social media sites. So just really talking about the game to everybody who will listen all the time.
Talking to everyone. Cool. When does the Kickstarter campaign finish?
Kickstarter campaign finishes on August 20th.
Aha. Okay, quite a
9,
while.
9 p.m. Pacific time, so that's 1 p.m. British summertime.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. So speaking of Kickstarter, how else did you fund the game? What
So
worked well and what didn't?
before that, we are totally self-funded. Um,
Okay.
so we've got a team of around 8 now, growing a little bit at the moment. We're going to pull on a couple more people over the next week or so. We've had around 25 people work on the core game over time. It's like people with special skills coming in, doing a little bit of work. Um, we had a prototype, a really really good prototyper build up the initial game. We've had someone who worked on the Magic Online rules engine build our rules engine. So he built the engine, and now we can add cards to that really easily because the engine structure is so solid. So I'm able to go in and code up new cards really quickly. Um, we had a really really great creative director who I worked with at Wizards come in and work on the IP and a lot of the initial art. Um, so we had a lot of people putting their own time into the game. Um, we've obviously had to spend some money on bits of software development and the artwork and audio and marketing, and that's right now that's come out of our own pockets. Um, we've been talking with a lot of bigger companies to see if they want to pick it up as a publishing deal or as a funding deal, and we're getting some really good interest on that. Most of them want to see the game a little further along before they make a call. They've got to really see it and get their hands on it. Uh,
Hmm.
but the general reaction has been really positive. They like the gameplay, they like the concept, and it tends to fit in the portfolio of what those types of companies want.
Okay. So, what was cut from the game and why?
We've cut. What was the biggest things we've cut? We've cut, or at least pushed back a lot of the features that we wanted to make. We wanted to go some pretty deep in terms of social features and pretty deep in terms of big splashy tournaments. We've pushed off some of that until we've got the basics really solid. Basics being the gameplay, the collection management, which we now got with the deck builder, the obvious things like we need a store because we've got to sell cards, otherwise we don't make any money at all. So that has to be in there. We've cut back on card development, adding new pieces of artwork at the moment, just because we don't need to do it based on our timeline. We can wait a little bit, see how people react to the game, see what designs they really like, and so we're really trying to push it down to just the absolute minimum that we need for launch. And then as we've launched, build on more features like the tournaments, like some of the more detailed social features. Although the social feature is actually an interesting one, because one of the first things people said was we want to be able to play against our friends.
Definitely.
Because that's how a lot of people like to play games. So we looked at that and said, all right, that's a really good request. We've had it from a bunch of different people. Let's reshuffle some of the work that we're doing, work on that now, and work on other features in a little bit. So we're actually shuffling around a little bit. We're going to push off work on push our work on the store because we don't need that right now, but we have to have it eventually. And working on to work on the friend play. We'll also get some in-game chat along with that as well, because it just
a whole variety of new features on the way.
Yeah.
I think these kind of games have a lot of potential to be esportized, if that's a word, to be competitive, have a competitive nature that can easily be again tournamentized.
Yes.
If these are such words. So I'm curious then, what was the biggest thing you learned, Paul, while working on the game?
I think it's something that I already knew, but every time I do something, it's reinforced, which is everything always takes longer than you expect it to take.
Oh, yes.
And everything takes longer than you want it to take. So I think that's the big thing that you just got to always keep in mind, is that things take a while to build. Nothing is quick. Nothing is easy. Making a game is incredibly hard. There's so many different pieces that go into it.
Yeah, like businesses, there's no one way to build it.
Yep, but there's lots of ways to build it wrong.
Oh yes, definitely.
Same as a business.
So speaking of wrong, then, what was the worst thing that happened, and how did you overcome it?
The worst thing that happened. We've certainly lost team members at awkward times. Either they've got a job, or they started a family, and that was definitely tricky for us. We've been really close to a couple of deals that fell through for strange outside reasons, like nothing to do with the game or either of the companies, but just something changed in the world. So the deal that could have been on was now off. Those aren't giant setbacks because we're not banking on any of those, but it's always a little disconcerting when something's really close to coming together and then just falls apart. That's the way the business works.
Definitely, I understand that. So, what was the best game dev purchase you made? or investment, whether it was a software license, hardware, a piece of equipment, or simply good desks and comfortable
The
chairs?
best investment we made was actually something that we haven't spent any money on yet, but we will be spending money on, which is a service called PlayFab. So these are a group that are in Seattle, and they've built an entire back end service for games. So all the accounts, all the purchases, all the all the game data, all the collections, they handle all that on their end in their service, which is
Hmm.
fantastic because it means we don't have to build any of those features. And frankly, for a digital trading card game to build those features to a good level of quality, that's 2 to 3 years work. It's several $1 million worth of work to make that. Yeah, and frankly, we couldn't have built this game as an indie studio without them.
Hmm. I get you. A very important piece of software then.
Yeah,
So, do you have any game development related book, lecture, or learning resource you can recommend?
I recommend YouTube. Quite
Definitely.
frankly, there's so much out there that you can search things, find things. You can find an answer to almost any question um, just by searching YouTube and finding the right video.
You can also find about 30 episodes of the Daily Dev Talk on there as well.
32 now, right?
This is, yeah, 32, but this one's not up there yet.
Well, it will be
As
when
of
you hear
yet.
this.
But still, I get your YouTube definitely. I find that you can find almost anything on there. Most of the time, the quality is problematic because people might have varying, just recording quality or standards, or the all sorts of dilemmas. Microphone quality, or whether or not they get to the answer. Your answer could be 10 seconds, but they could take 2 minutes to get to it, and a bit annoying and
they,
time wasting.
they could. There's a lot of good conference talks up on YouTube
Ah,
now.
yeah,
So there's a lot of ones that are they're professional quality. They're really good speakers and they really know what they're talking about.
definitely. So, like an Evernote or Trello, do you have a useful or productivity enhancing software, app, extension, or website worth sharing?
Yeah, we use Pivotal Tracker for our game development tracking. We also use Slack, and Slack is a really good messaging system. I would encourage people to check it out. Um, we've got it integrated with our source control and with our Pivotal Tracker, so we get all our updates through there, and
Hmm.
it's better than email.
Interesting. What? Ooh, interesting. Why is that exactly? That's quite a statement.
It takes a lot of the quick conversations out of your email inbox, um, and you can just have a quick back and forth with the right people. Um, Other people can go in and look at what you've talked about, and so you can bring someone else into a conversation and really easily get them up to speed. Um, it's everything centralized where email is everything in your own inbox.
Interesting.
Um,
Interesting.
so
Definitely worth checking out.
yeah, definitely.
So, what advice can you give to aspiring game developers, small indie studios, and people who want and are trying to get to where you are today?
Um, the biggest advice would be make a game and don't give up. Some
Yeah.
more actionable advice is start with something that isn't too big. You don't want your first project to fail because you tried to do something that would really take 60 people to do. You don't want your first project to take 15 years,
Hmm.
probably. And some projects that have taken 15 years have been amazing when they've come out, but probably that's not what you want to do. Um, Make something that you're going to enjoy. If you
Yes.
don't enjoy it, then you're not going to want to talk to people about it, and people aren't going to know about it.
there's a phrase that I've come up with after talking to 30 developers, saying that as a developer, if you wouldn't play it, you wouldn't pay for it. So if you as a developer wouldn't play the game you're working on, then you as a consumer wouldn't pay for it.
Yeah, I think that's even more important when you're an indie dev, because it's driven by your passion for games. If you're working at a big company and you're working on a Farmville or a Candy Crush, you don't necessarily have to be super excited about it. Helps, but you don't have to be super excited about playing the game all the time. You might just enjoy working on a project like that, because there's enough people around you that do really enjoy the game, and it's all numbers focused anyway. If you're an indie, if you don't love it, you're doing it wrong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So what is next for you, and what's the best way to contact you?
Next for us is to get this Kickstarter funded. We're halfway now, so we've got 28 days to get the other half. So we're going to get there. Then we're off to PAX Prime in September. We've got going to show off the game and talk to a whole bunch of people, demo it. Then it's more development. That's always
Cool.
The next thing is build more game.
Build more game.
In terms of contacting us, you can contact us. We've got a support email address, which is support@dragonfoundry.com. If you need to email us for anything, you can email us there. You can download the game from novablitz.com. There's a download link, and you can find us on Kickstarter. If you toss in $1, you can comment and messages and everything else that's good on there. So lots of ways to contact us. You can talk to us on Twitter or on Facebook. We're Nova Blitz on both of those.
Okay, brilliant. All sorts of ways to get in touch.
Absolutely.
Well, John, sorry, I don't know why I said John. Sorry, Paul, even. Well, Paul, it seems that we're out of time for this episode of the Daily Dev Talk. It was great having you on.
It was wonderful to be here.
Yeah, it's not very often I get people who have been in the industry for 14 or so years, so that's pretty cool. A lot of experience to draw from.
Definitely.
Okay, cool. So, wish you well in your endeavours, and frankly, just by sheer maths, you're well on your way to getting at least one stretch goal in Kickstarter.
I think so.
But thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Adrian.
Stay tuned, Overload Nation. More videos to come. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Daily Dev Talk with me, Adrian Nantchev. If you are a game developer that wants to get your name and game out there, and to share your experiences and stories, or you have feedback or opinions of the show, then contact me at info@gameoverload.co.uk. That's info@gameoverload.co.uk. Stay tuned for tomorrow's episode. More to come.